Al,
Whoa!
it appears the mock-up motor is out of the car.
Yes, I just pulled it out.
Really? What's going on over there?
Well, right now, getting that out of the way so I can finish cleaning the frame up and get it primer, get it painted, and start running brake lines and fuel lines.
Look at you go. Well, the satellite. She's a runner.
She's a runner.
You took her for a ride.
Yep.
How's she feel?
Took her out yesterday and no miss. Ran smooth. Got down the road. I read first and second out as far as I can go with her. She kept wanting more. So.
Good secondary opening?
Oh yeah.
Let's go over and look at the car. So, the mission with this thing was to get it running as best as we could. Actually, it runs really good. Not to rebuild the car. So along those lines, there were a few compromises we had to make. And I'll walk you through them one at a time. So, last week we did the thing with the wires, so that's all self-explanatory. The car had an old coil with frayed wires and everything, and it was mounted way back here. So we mounted it in the correct 6-pack location, and we used this Axle Superstock coil, which is more than adequate for the job. So when I talk about compromises, the wiring on the car, whoever converted this to electronic ignition I mean, it's a janky kind of job. It's there, but it really needs to be redone. So we're not going to get involved in all of that. What I did was I made a nice little pigtail so that if and when the owner of the car wants to straighten all of this out, he has a nice deal that he can plug into right over here that's wired to the coil. So that's that. Also on this side, we had the choke. We had a problem with the choke where it was just flopping around. So we took care of that. The choke is secured now. But then we ran into an interesting thing. There isn't enough heat underneath the choke stove here to actually operate the choke. I don't know. I would have to take the intake manifold off to find out for sure. But I believe that the heat has been blocked off from underneath the carburetors, from underneath, in the choke stove. So it's not getting enough to actually open the choke all the way. So what we did here was we just bent, the choke is secured, the thermostat is secured, but what we did was we bent the linkage here so that the choke blade just stays open. And it's functioning fine. Starting it from cold, it goes no problem. So we're going to leave that for there. If at some point the owner of the car wants to straighten this thing out, all we'll have to do is figure out why it's blocked underneath, unblock it, and then rebend the choker. Because that's actually how you adjust the choke on these. You bend that arm, longer and shorter, and that's how you achieve the right tension on it. So, but mechanically, that's all there. If he wants to use it, he can. The biggest problem we had with this car, or the most glaring problem, was that it had no throttle. The throttle bracket that was supposed to be here was broken off. And so the cable was only pulling the carburetor, the center carburetor, about a third of the way open. So now we ran into an interesting situation. I said, all right, well, we'll just get the right 6-pack stuff for this. But we would have to have replaced all of the linkage. When they put this car together, what they did was they used a small block, a 273/318 throttle bracket, this one here. And the bell crank is also from a 273/318. This kickdown rod, this kickdown linkage, is from a 383 2-barrel, a middle 60s, like a 65, 66 383 2-barrel. And they worked out a geometry that works fairly well. The linkage clears the way it's supposed to, it operates the way it's supposed to, it adjusts out the way it's supposed to, but if we had used a correct 6-pack setup, we would have to replace all of these pieces. So rather than do that, what I did was I added this extension, I welded this extension onto the original throttle bracket, and so now here's the cable mount, and we have full throttle as we're supposed to, and all of the kickdown linkage is functioning the way it's supposed to. If the owner at some point wants to put all of the correct stuff on here, he's going to have to gut everything from here down to the transmission and replace it all with the 6-pack appropriate pieces. It's not an original 6-pack car. It's not even close. It's a 68. So these things, originality isn't really an issue. Functionality is the issue. So we've got that. What else was there? I guess that's about it. Oh, so the car runs strong. And I wish I could take credit for the car running strong. Like I put some kind of crazy super tune on it, but I didn't. Somebody at some point already did it to this particular combination. The distributor has the later springs already in it. Advances all in by about 2,000 RPM. The carburetors already have a correct spring. They're tuned correctly. They open sooner than they do with the stock springs in there. So this car is actually set up right now about optimum for what it is. Now when I say optimum for what it is, it's not a drag car. It has a 355 gear, it has a tight converter, it has a relatively small cam, it's a heavy car, it has no suspension so to speak of, so there's no lift or anything like that. It's very heavy wheels and tires, it's got power steering, it's got power brakes, it's got all of these little things that slow a car down. So to tune this thing to the razor's edge, or a drag racer's razor edge, is pointless. It's a muscle car. So with that, you tune it and you treat it like a muscle car. Let's fire this thing up. That's a nice, solid, like mid-13-second car. Perfect. And the motor's tired. A little bit of blow-by, a little bit of smoke out the pipes. But she looks good, she sounds good. I think this guy's going to be Josh. His name is Josh. I think Josh is going to be happy with it. Now finish up where we left off, and you got a righteous hot rod, brother, man. See you tomorrow.